My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of sucked, if I'm being honest. I think that there are some things that the show did pretty well, but it's all overshadowed by how bad the plot is. But I'm going to start with the stuff I like, but don't worry, it's a pretty short list. One thing I definitely liked is Sam and Bucky's relationship. They have really good chemistry, and they have some actual good heart-to-heart conversations in this show. The other thing I liked is John Walker, Captain America, and how he was handled. I personally really enjoyed his arc in this show, and Wyatt Russell, who plays John Walker, has a really good performance. And all the actors on this show have a pretty good performance, but I just thought he stood out. Now, I wasn't kidding when I said this was a short list, because that's pretty much it.
My disappointment.
So now let's move on to the problems. My first complaint is Zemo. I like Zemo. I think he's a cool character, but he's only around in the show to tell a few jokes, and then he just leaves. I think he was really underused. And one minor thing I have to point out is how hilariously stupid it is how he escapes. So the Wakandans want him brought in for his crimes. So does John Walker. But instead of working something out, they just start fighting each other, and Zemo literally just walks out the door and leaves. Were they just trying to give Zemo an opportunity to leave? And it's not even like Zemo could have gotten that far. Bucky can outrun cars. Why can't he just catch up to this one regular dude? Speaking of underused characters, let's talk about Bucky. Bucky is supposed to be one of the show's main characters, but he never really has anything to do except hang out with Sam, and make jokes, and beat people up. His character arc about coming to terms with his horrible past as the Winter Soldier is only brought up a couple times and is never really focused on again. This disappoints me because I was really intrigued by Bucky's past, but the show never really focuses on it that much. Instead, the show focuses on the worst written MCU antagonist ever, Carla. Carly? Carl. So anyways, Carly and the Flag Smashers. I'm sorry, that sounds like a bad punk band from the early 2000s. So anyways, Carly and the Flag Smashers think that life was better during the blip when half the world was dead. But why? They say it's because the world was more peaceful and everybody got along better and that everybody was united, but that's almost the complete opposite of what we were shown in Endgame. In Endgame, we were shown that cities are in turmoil. Everybody is depressed and kind of rude to each other. We're shown that people can't even go on dates without breaking into tears. What about this time was good? Carly also says that when half the universe was brought back alive, that the world got worse again. But in Spider-Man Far From Home, we see other parts of the world besides America. We see multiple countries in Europe, and everybody seems way happier than they did in Endgame. Carly talks about how when people that got dusted came back, that people living in the dusted people's homes got forced onto the streets. But again, in Spider-Man 2, we saw that the opposite happened, and that people who were dusted were the ones put on the streets. So either Carly is making stuff up, or all her issues are limited to her part of the world specifically. In which case, why is she gaining followers worldwide? It was obviously trying to get the audience on her side, but all we see her do is say things totally contrary to what we have been previously shown and committing acts of terrorism. Because we all know the best way to spread a message of peace and unity is by robbing banks and blowing up buildings with people inside of them. The other antagonist of this show is John Walker, or at least he's supposed to be. It's very clear that the show is trying to paint him as the bad guy, but he doesn't really do anything wrong aside from sneaking the super soldier serum. He saves Bucky and Sam, he even tries to team up with them. I think the main reason people hated him is just because he wasn't Steve Rogers. And once Lamar got bodied, I was totally on his side. When he killed the Flag Smasher, I did not feel bad for the Flag Smashers at all. And then Sam and Bucky fight him, and while this fight is the only fight that is at all visually impressive, it also doesn't make that much sense. As a viewer, all I saw was a member of a terrorist organization that is responsible for hundreds of deaths getting killed. Why would I feel like John Walker is in the wrong? But Sam and Bucky are like, oh man, you did the wrong thing, hand over the shield. And yeah, murdering somebody in broad daylight is not a good thing, would not recommend it. But as a viewer of the show, I can't really view Walker as the bad guy because I just want to see the Flag Smashers pay for their horrible deeds. It's really obvious that the show is trying to paint Walker as the bad guy in this situation, but at the same time, he felt like the only character I can really get behind. Now, by far the biggest problem with this show isn't all the stuff I just listed about the Flag Smashers and how stupid the plot is. The biggest problem with this show is that it's not fun to watch. At the very least, what I want from a superhero show or movie is that it's just fun to watch. Venom is dumber than you can even imagine, but it's very fun to watch, and because of that I left the theater feeling alright. But this show is just straight up boring.
My disappointment.
Now, while I like Sam and Bucky's chemistry, they will sometimes just have these long, drawn-out conversations that just keep going and going. At first, I didn't really mind this, but once I realized it was going to make up like 70% of the show, I got pretty disappointed. And it's not like the other scenes make this show more watchable either. All the fights are just people doing karate to each other with shaky cam, and the camera that cuts to a different angle every millisecond. And the runtime definitely doesn't help with this issue. Each of these episodes are around 50 minutes long, and sometimes it's really obvious that the writers were just filling in dead space to make the episode longer. Both episodes 1 and 5 have this boring plot line about Sam's sister's boat and her financial problems, and I just couldn't care less. Episode 5 is the second to last episode, and half of it is just the town fixing a boat. And personally, I just don't find a story about small-scale terrorists that interesting. This whole show just feels like a video game side quest. It all feels super basic and uninspired. So I'm gonna give Eagle and Summer Soldier a 4 out of 10.